Utale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pracharane Nirvisheshanyamade Pashchatta Deshatarane Vancha Kalpatarubhishya Kripa Sindhudevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Welcome everyone. This is our third session. This is the session we will discuss about the Pandavas incognito. And since we are studying Arjuna's character, certainly we will focus on Arjuna's impact during the incognito. So when the Pandavas, after being tested by Yaksha, they got the benediction, they got the blessings. The blessings were, even if you do not change your attire, your features, your personalities, even if you go as Yudhishthir, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakul and Sahadev, nobody will recognize you. That was the benediction was given by Yamaraj. And Indra also had given this benediction to the Pandavas. Right? So, but still the Pandavas, what they did was, they basically did not only depend upon their destiny. Oh, anyway I will be protected, what is the point in doing anything? So the prediction of protection does not minimize your preparation. Predicted but preparing, that is the first part. So therefore Arjuna, he disguised himself as Brahannala. Now they all decided what they will take form, what kind of rupa they will have. So when Arjuna decided to become Brahannala, now Brahannala was not simply a dress. Brahannala was a transformation. And that transformation was possible because Arjuna, the second point is, adversity turning into advantage. If you all know, when Arjuna was in the heavenly planets, had gone to the higher education, and he learned everything what is desirable by the student. But as he was ready to come back to earthly planet, he was cursed by Urvashi, because Arjuna rejected her proposal. And she had our laws. She explained why Arjuna has to accept her, and Arjuna had hid his perspective why he cannot accept her. Urvashi was speaking from the heavenly laws, and Arjuna was speaking from the earthly laws. The earthly laws and the heavenly laws were contradictory, but Arjuna did not budge. He said, I will not accept your proposal because you are almost like my mother, you are like Sachi, therefore there is no question of that. So Urvashi became very angry and upset, and she cursed Arjuna to become a eunuch. Now when he asked this to Indra, what is this? I came here for higher education, but this is what is happening to me. It is like sending your children to study in America with your hard-earned money, and they turn into socialists, they turn into leftists, then they turn into oak. Because to become a oak, to become a liberal, to become a leftist, you don't have to earn. You have to simply be angry. Now if you have been sent by your parents with all that resources, right, they've earned it. With their merits they have made that money, and then you go and become a leftist and oak, doesn't make any sense only. So Arjuna, of course, when he was there, when he realized that all my education which I learned has turned into curse. This is not fair. When he asked Indra, Indradev said, my dear Arjun, do not worry. This curse given by Urvashi will turn into a benediction for you. That was the blessing Indra gave. But as we know, the great quality of Arjuna is to turn the most difficult, challenging situation into advantage. Arjuna always thrives in uncertainty. So Indra had told him this. They came down to earthly planet. The incognito time period started, Agyatavas. Arjuna told his brother, I will become Brahannala. And Arjuna became Brahannala. And he came to the place of Virat. Now Virat saw Arjun, his features. Even though Arjuna was covered, Virata said, it is not possible that you are eunuch. You have to be a great warrior. So Arjuna fed his own story, built his own narratives. He said, no, I cannot tell you my story. It's a very painful story. It is no point in repeating my story. I am Brahannela. I am not a warrior. And just to cover, even though Arjuna became Brahannala, a eunuch, his main mark, he changed. He had long hair, he had bangles, he was wearing a bangles made of conch. Everything was there, but what did not change was the marks on his shoulders, carrying the bow. They were like imprinted on his body. They were unchangeable, so he put some more ornament. Virat was not willing to accept that he was a eunuch. And Arjuna did not budge. He convinced him that I am a Brahannila. I have no connection to warriorship. I am good at teaching music. I am good at teaching dance. I am good at braiding the hair. I am good at rangoli. Another interesting point we learn here, that Arjuna was not fixed about his profession. Arjuna was not stubborn about, I can only do warriorship, otherwise I will not live. He did not have that kind of idea. So, by seeing this, Virata ultimately agreed. He agreed to Arjuna, accepted him to serve his daughter, that is Uttara, along with other girls who could be trained by Arjuna. So, when Arjuna accepted that proposal, again we see here, the Pandavas were hard working in regards to hiding their identity, even though they had the benediction given by Yamaraj. Sometimes people say, when you have an assurance, when you have resources, when you have lot of resources, you become complacent. Yes, certainly, that is the law of life. But the law of warrior's life is, he does not become complacent. He sweats more in a peace time, so that during the war time, he is peaceful. This we learn from the Pandavas, very profound understanding. And therefore, when people ask why God does not reciprocate us directly, no, if He reciprocates directly, we will become redundant. We will not perform action. I remember recently I was talking to some students. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains to Arjuna, again Arjuna is the recipient of this knowledge. He says, Na datte kassachit papam, na datte sukrutim vibhu. Jnanam avrutam ajnanam tena moyanti juntava. What does Krishna say here? He says, my dear Arjuna, I do not take anybody's sinful activities. I do not take responsibility of anybody's pious activities. The suffering of jiva is caused by ignorance. You heard it very clearly. Na kisi ka paap, na kisi ka punya main svikar karta hu. Here Sri Krishna, who is the avatar, he is saying, I do not take anybody's responsibility. On the other hand, one of the greatest selling point in the Abrahamic world, right? What is that? Jesus died for your sin. Now, if you ask the question, who is more kind? One who is willing to take all your sins, free you from the burden of your own action and consequences. He is supposed to be the kindest. And on the other hand, Krishna is making very clear claim, I do not accept anybody's sin or anybody's pious activity. But if you study Bhagavad Gita carefully, then you realize that Krishna has the confidence in the living entity's identity of being full of knowledge, full of bliss and full of eternality. Jiva by quality, it is very important for us to understand. Jiva by quality is non-different from the Ishwar. In quantity, he or she differs. And therefore, in this 5th chapter verse, it is not about not taking responsibility of the living entity, but it is empowering the living entity. I have the trust in your capacity. I have the trust in your capability. I have the trust in your potential. You don't need me. Krishna is like that swimming coach who pushes the child in the water because the potential of swimming is there. Therefore, Sarvadharman Parityaja, when Krishna speaks, why does he speak that? It is not that these are two contradictory verses. I do not take anybody's sinful activities, and Krishna hears it in 18.66. Do not fear Arjuna. Sarvadharman Parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo. Right? Here, when you are performing your activities, every action has certain consequences. Every action has certain limitation. When I do this one, I empower myself. When I empower myself, while empowering, when the inadequacies come, those responsibilities is taken by Sri Krishna. Not, we love Krishna. Surrendering is not burdening God. Surrendering means having confidence in the laws of God. Therefore, if there is a choice, rather than pampering, it is always better to empower. And because of that empowerment, what does it do? That empowerment gives rise to limitless flexibility. And because of that limitless flexibility, a living entity knows, okay, this is my Swadharma. I am meant to be a warrior. But I do not mind becoming a dancer if there is a need for some time. One of the greatest tragedy of the Hindu community, developing Varna into Jati. When you make Varna into Jati, then more than Jati, you actually make it into a caste. What does caste do? It cannot make any other shape other than how it is casted. If you make a cast of a car, you can't expect it to be a truck. If you make a cast of a fruit, you cannot make into a vegetable because it is cast. Fixation hai. But Varna Dharma is not fixed. There are flexibilities. The Apad Dharma gives rise to doing anything and everything, of course within the dharmic parameter, to survive and to grow. There was a story, a true story, one of the great king, his son in an exhibition match in Vijayanagar Samraj, he had to fight with a non-Kshatriya. When he got to know that I fought with a non-Kshatriya, he couldn't handle the insult, he committed suicide. They have not studied Mahabharata. The Pandavas did not have this caste consciousness. Whoever is capable, whatever is required to grow in life, they did that. So Arjuna becoming a eunuch, it is in one sense, what is the point in living? One can ask that question. But he said, no, this is part of life. Part of life is that sometime one has to accept the apad dharma. That may not be my position, that may not be my disposition, but there are certain emergencies you have to do. The great warrior, he was teaching dance to Uttara, and the Viratas were the subordinate kings of the Pandavas. You became their servant. Because destiny can take us everywhere. They were not frozen with that. But it was a time bound, 1 year, 2 year, depending upon how long you are willing to do that. So apad dharma, the circumstantial, the emergency duties is not your disposition, but emergency duty is part of life, even after having a particular disposition. So Arjuna accepted it. So therefore flexibility or fixation allows people to grow and thrive. When people become fixed that I cannot do other than this one, the very expertise becomes cause of one's slavery. इसके अलावा मैं कुछ कर ही नहीं सकता हूं. It's a death knell. So Arjuna is teaching that flexibility or fixation gives rise to limitless amicability. Like, okay, therefore there are 3 dharmas: apad dharma, swabhava dharma, and swarupa dharma. Swarupa dharma is what? The eternal identity, full of knowledge, full of bliss, full of eternality. What is swabhava dharma? Swabhava dharma is naturally being a warrior, naturally being a businessman, naturally being a farmer. They are naturally drawn to these qualities. But sometimes what happens, your natural qualities become responsible for an obstacle for some time. If Pandavas continued to remain as a warrior during their incognito, even though Indra and Yaksha had promised them, basically they are allowing themselves to be vulnerable. So they took the responsibility to hide. And every one of them, Draupadi became Sairandri, serving the queen. She was the king, she was the queen of the queens. She was Chakravarti Samragyi, but she became the maid servant of the subordinate queen. Therefore, the chart of the king's chart, if you see always the stories of a great king, they are so flexible. If they are not king, they can live like a beggar in the forest. The great Rana Pratap Singh Ji, when he lost his kingdom, he took a resolve. As long as we do not conquer our Mewad back from the Mlechas, I will not eat food made from grains. He was eating roti made of grass. He is born to the royalty, but his conditioning was flexibility. The greatest tragedy in the modern wealthy situation is that they develop such a condition that anything which is little disturbed, their entire existence get disturbed. What a vulnerable position. How fragile they are. And such fragility gives rise to exploiting the very people who are resourceful. Because they're easy target, very vulnerable. They don't know how to be flexible. They'll pay anything to buy a glass of water. They'll buy any money to get that restraint is not there. because the flexibility is not there. Therefore, the Mahabharata, Ramayana, they teach. Now, the interesting part about the royalty was, as much as royal you are, that much you have the potential of becoming a beggar. Right? Sometimes, oh, our royalty looted us, our royalty did this, but study properly. Some of the wrong understanding, a Brahmana, okay, that they will say, oh, the literatures are written by the Brahmanas, all the charity has to be given to the Brahmana. Even if a Brahmana is making, one should not neglect to respect him. These verses are spoken to someone who is supposed to respect a Brahmana. But the Shastras, whether it is Manu Samhita, whether it is other literature, they define who is a Brahmana. Do you know the punishment for ordinary people if they do certain wrong thing? Right? They go through the 84 lakh species of life. Sometimes they become a ghost also. Bhoot Pishachi ban jate hai. One will say, I don't believe it. It's a psychological reality. Even if you don't believe, it's a psychological reality. And a Brahmana, when he does the great fault, the punishment is not just being ghost, it is becoming a Brahma Rakshas. So to be the king, there has to be greater flexibility. As your position is smaller, the flexibility is less. If you have 10,000 rupees, you will only lose 10,000 rupees. But you have a kingdom. Losing 10,000 rupees and losing a kingdom is a big deal. A Raja, when he loses his kingdom, he directly becomes a beggar. And therefore, imagine in our Gurukul system, the highest upper class were the one who would beg. And this begging was not match fixed. Right? The king would send 10 of his people, you build a house because my son is studying in, Gurukul of certain Rishi, because I want my son should receive proper. No, the king would never do that blunder. He wanted his son to become toughest, so that when the life is tough, they know the capacity to handle that. And that is the beauty of the Pandavas. Being experienced of apad dharma, coming down, going up, having the kingdom, losing the kingdom, getting insulted by the Kauravas. At no point of time they wanted to give up their life. Duryodhana, on the other hand, Duryodhana is a typical elitist personality. When he came to offend the Pandavas in Dvaitavana with all his entourage, right, wanted to ridicule the Pandavas, brought their entire big army of men, women, partying. But Arjuna's friend Chitraratha captured Duryodhana just like an animal, binding his hands, binding his legs, bringing him in the presence of Yudhishthira Maharaj. Yudhishthira Maharaj forgiving him. Duryodhana could not handle that. He said, I have been forgiven by the enemy. I don't mind getting defeated. That is one thing. But after getting defeated by the enemy's friend, my enemy gave me forgiveness. He said, you go. And that almost killed Duryodhana. Duryodhana went down to perform tapasya and to die. He told Dushyasan, he told Vikarna, he told Shakuni, I'm done with, I'm not coming, I'm insulted so much. So Duryodhana did not had the concept of flexibility. He preferred dying rather than gaining his glory back. And why do you think it happened? It happened because there was no flexibility. So that is another great quality of the Pandavas, being extremely flexible. They stayed there for a long time. One year is not small. One day, Draupadi saw Arjuna, wearing the bangles made of conch. He is teaching dance to the girls. There is nothing wrong in teaching dance to the girls, right? But who is teaching? The person whose job was fighting the battle against the heavenly personalities, against the biggest demons, against biggest, evil forces. They are evil, but they are powerful people, right? Arjuna, when he was in his element, he was doing this, but what is he doing now? He's teaching dance to the girls of the assembly. Draupadi said, how in the world, my Bhima, I see this, I cannot see this. I'm not able to notice this, how my husband Arjuna has gone to such a situation. She laments there, right? But Arjuna, as himself going through, he was seamless. He stayed there. He taught Uttara, amazing art, amazing dance, amazing Vinavadan, amazing Rangoli. Imagine your greatest weapon. If you ask the upcoming cricketer who has become little famous, tell him cricket एक साल के लिए बंद करो और बर्तन साफ करो, आत्महत्या कर लेंगे, right? Because the concept of flexibility we have given up. But Arjuna not only seamlessly was teaching them, the girls of Virata's kingdom became fascinated by Arjuna's teaching style. And one day, the Kurus had decided, they were looking for the Pandavas' whereabouts. So they got some hint of Pandavas being in the kingdom of Virat. So they decided that from north side and south side, they will have a different attack. The one side of the army was tackled by Virata himself. He had gone to fight along with Bhima. But other side of the country, they didn't know what was cooking up. The Kurus attacked the Viratas, collected their cows, and they started going away. And somebody came and told, the coward men came and told Virata's son Uttara that, this is what happening, please do something about it. In the Mahabharata, Uttara Kumar has two characters. One is the boastful character and one is a transformed character. The boastful character is extremely scary and fearful. And the transformed character, he fights Bhishma Dev on the first day of Kurukshetra, causes sweating to Bhishma Dev, creates tremble in the heart of Bhishma Dev. Only at the last moment Bhishma Dev was able to kill Uttara Kumar, but his death was glorious, just by being in the association of Arjuna. But when he was boasting, right, in the Mahabharata, there is a story of Shalya and Karna's debate. It's like typical parliament, the Pakistani parliament, no less in India also. So Karna was boasting about his capacity. He said, I'll finish Arjuna within no time. I'll do this, I'll finish off everybody. So Shalya did not accept the boastful of Karna, because Shalya was also himself a very boastful person. He couldn't handle it. What the hell are you talking about? What do you know about Arjun? He was glorifying Arjun, and Karna couldn't handle that. So at one point of time, Shalya spoke the story of a competition between crow and a Hamsa Pakshi. Those who had gone to GV, you can see the nice, beautiful Hamsa Pakshi. And they fly, their style of flying, they take off, they take some stride and then immediately they fly, and they can fly 100 kilometers non-stop. That is the power of flying of the Hamsa Pakshi. One crow came and started arguing with Hamsa Pakshi that, you know what, I can fly. I know 100 varieties of flying. And Hamsa was not speaking. So the crow insisted, you have to fight with me, you have to compete with me. Hamsa said, no problem, let us fly. So they started flying over the vast ocean. or a lake. But the problem was the crow which was crowing started speaking about different kinds of flying. The Mahabharata explains 100 varieties of flying. The Indian Air Force should see this and use those technique of flying. 100 varieties of flying. Crow knew this 100 varieties of flying. But what the crow did not know was that I have lack capacity, I am boastful. At some point of time as they were flying, Hamsa was flying, seamless. Like some of the best person, the best player when he plays, they're seamless people. They don't exert themselves. So Hamsa was flying and then suddenly the crow started losing its capacity and started coming down, touching the ground, the water body. So then Hansa asked him, Are you described 100 varieties of flying. Which flying is this? Then crow had to say, I am drowning, do something about it. Hamsa is Hamsa. He took that bird over his back and protected. Right? So Arjuna was Hamsa. Uttara was boasting. Then eventually Arjuna and Uttara, Arjuna became his chariot driver as Brahannala on the advice, guidance, insistence of Draupadi, and Uttara became a warrior on the way to go to the battle. And Uttara Kumar's sister was Uttara. She got this unique idea. She told, my dear Brahannala, my dear teacher, when my brother defeats the Kurus, go and collect their clothes. I want to cover them for my toys. Arjuna heard it. Right? And when they saw the battlefield, when Uttara saw the battlefield, he was shaken with fear. He was sweating, he was trembling. His hands were not able to hold the bows. Exact the same thing what Arjuna was experiencing. Arjuna's experience caused by compassion and Uttara's caused by pure fear. He said, I can't, this is not army. This is an ocean. There is no question I'm fighting them. I want to go back. Now you cannot say that in the presence of the Pandavas. They do not know fear. They do not fear the big army. And it is Arjun. And when Uttara Kumar jumps off the chariot, Arjuna also jumps off the chariot, looking feminine, looking a eunuch, jumping off. All those who were superficial were having a laughter against Arjuna's predicament, against the predicament of Uttara. Oh, the soldier is running, the chariot driver is running, they're not able to face the army. Such a powerful army, they were having a great laughter. Right? As Arjuna grabbed Uttara, went with him to another place, and he told Uttar, go and pick up that body, dead body. Next to that body, there is some thing covered in a leather. So Uttar said, no, how can you make me climb the tree? This is not fair. I am a Kshatriya. How can I go and collect that? Now he is remembered Kshatriyatva. But when the battle was going on, he was scared. Right? So Arjuna had to grab him, take him. He said, bring it down. They are not crops. So then Uttara Kumara went up, brought down. When he opened it, he was shocked to see them. It was like a treasure. And what was that treasure? They were all amazing weapons. And Arjuna picked up. After 1 year, imagine, he is picking up his Gandiva bow. And he said, Uttara said, who is this? What is this? What kind of weapon is this? He said, this is the weapon of Arjun, the Gandiva. And he said, who are you? I said, I am that Arjun. Uttar Kumar started shaking in fear. How this can be Arjun? He said, can you tell me, the 10 names of Arjun? I know Arjuna has 10 names. It was a confidential, not everybody knew. It was a confidential, and Arjuna gave the 10 names and why he got those 10 names. And one of the name is Dhananjay, one who is a collector of the wealth for Yudhishthira Maharaj. Savvecha Sachi, dexterous, both hands he could utilize. He was named after Falguni Nakshatra, therefore he was Falgun. He had the color of Arjuna tree, therefore he is Arjuna, and very grounded. Bibhutsu, who could cause limitless pain in the heart of the enemy's army. Right? When Arjuna recited 10 of his names, Uttara Kumar was enthralled with fear also. And he asked, my dear Arjuna, will you face alone this army? Is it possible? He said, I am not alone. Arjuna said, I have Kuber, I have Agni, I have Vayu, I have Lord Shiva, I have Indra, I have Drona, I have Krupacharya, I have Sri Krishna with me. Who is not there with me? Therefore I am not alone, don't worry. He said, you just drive the chariot. And when Arjuna and this boy Uttara Kumar had this encounter, there were 2-3 people. There are tears in their eyes. They spoke in the mystical language. The language which was not understood by the ordinary. It was a code language. The code language was, they were discussing how this boy can be anybody other than Arjun. It must be Arjun. He cannot be somebody. But they cannot openly speak because they didn't know whether the 12 years plus 1 year incognito is over or not. But Bhishma Dev knew actually it is over. Imagine the Pandavas were following the Jyotish Shastra to understand. They were not junglis living in the forest having no access to social stability. They knew they were completed. From the Suryamana, they had completed. From Chandramahana, the extra 6 months they had completed. So that there is a full proof. Therefore, they got exposed themselves. Not fully, not completely. When Arjuna faced the great Bhishma, Drona, Kripa, they recognized this is Arjuna. They had tears in their eyes, Bhishma, Drona, Kripacharya. But one greatest problem was, all these 3 personalities never came to meet the Pandavas. Now this is a paradox, right? We study the character of Pandavas, we study the character of Bhishma, Dronacharya. Dearly loved, why would they not go to meet the Pandavas? Krishna went, Satyaki went, Balramji went to meet Pandavas along with Krishna. Vidur came regularly to meet the Pandavas, but Dronacharya, Bhishma Dev, Kripacharya never once felt that they should come to meet the Pandavas. Why? There is no answer to this question. But you want to see what is the disposition of Arjuna? Arjuna had gratitude beyond being neglected. He was neglected by the very dear ones. Bhishma Dev was not elderly person, he was like, yes, older, but fresh in his energy. He fought the war. There was no, if Vidura can go to the forest, they could have easily gone. They had not gone. It is but natural to feel bitterness. Arey, what is this, There my grandfather did not even come to meet me. The first meeting between Arjuna and this great personality is overwhelming. That great Arjuna, what is he doing? He takes 2 arrows for each one of them. One arrow when he shoots, it goes close to the ear of Bhishma, Drona, Kripacharya. What is he saying? I am asking your permission. And 3 more arrows he takes and shoots them down at the feet of this great personality, not touching them but going close to them, seeking their blessings. How can anybody defeat such a person? He has his own Purushartha, he has his own efforts, but along with that effort, always seeking blessings of their superiors, even though the superiors had neglected, they had not performed their duty. It didn't bother to Arjuna. Therefore, what are Pandavas means? Pandavas means they are investors of blessings. And who are Kauravas? Kauravas are the one who are collecting the curses. Curse after curse, curse after curse, curse after curse. But the Pandavas collecting blessings after blessings, even after being neglected. When you meet first time, you could always say, "Arey, what, I was waiting, you never came to meet me, 13, 14 years I was in difficulty. आपको एक बार आने की भी इच्छा नहीं हुई." That is a very painful thing. But it did not bother Arjuna. He said, "No, I need their blessings. They are my superiors. I respect them. I love them. I care for them." That does not mean that Arjuna's caring stopped him from doing his duty. Sometimes people say those who are sentimental, they do not produce results. Somebody gave the example, the difference between the Brazil and German football team. In 1972, somebody wrote an article. He said the Germans play like a machine and Brazilians play like a dance and drama. They enjoy the fun of playing. And even though they're enjoying the fun of playing, they have more World Cup compared to the Germans. So therefore, sensitivity, human emotions, that feminine quality does not make you less in contribution. It has a longer race of horse, lambe race ka ghoda hai wo. That did not make Arjuna less competent, less assertive. Yes, he went through his painful situation seeing Drona, Drupad and Kripacharya in the Kurukshetra battle. Here he fought them. There he was weak. But that weakness is time bound. He bounced back to his original identity of shooting Bhishma. There were tears in his eyes. What a character. What a personality. Right? After taking their blessings, these two personalities are in great ecstasy. Even though they never came to Arjuna, they loved. But they were scared. They did not take that step of coming and meeting the Pandava. Just like the Brahmanas, in the Leela when Krishna's, the best devotees, the Brahman Patnis, they did not get scared by Kamsa. They collected everything, came and gave it to Krishna. But this Kamsa Bhrityas, they said, no, we don't want to go there. Kamsa will be upset with us. They were happy to displease Krishna. Krishna is not going to screw up their life. But they screwed their own life by being fearful of Kamsa, not standing to the level of confidence, devotion, which was there in the heart of the Brahman Patni. Right? So, that was Arjuna's character. He took blessings. The battle began. Before the battle began, Arjuna, when he took the Gandiva first time, he tied that rope to the bow and he told Uttara, now you hold very powerfully, strongly. He said, I am going to twang my Gandiva. Imagine after 1 year you're getting your Gandiva, and one of the most important part of that part of carrying the bow, putting the arrow on this target and then releasing, right? And before that making it flexible, you twang it. When Arjuna twanged his Gandiva, he had told Uttara, hold your chariot very tightly. As Arjuna basically made a powerful sound of string of that Gandiva, Uttar Kumar fell on the chariot. The entire Kuru Sena got scared. All the horses, all the elephants, simultaneously they passed and urine, imagine, in one go. That was the power. You can imagine that fear in the heart of the enemy gave ecstasy to the great personalities like Bhishma, Kripa, Drona. Even though they neglected, they couldn't stop loving Arjuna. Even though they neglected, Arjuna could not stop respecting them. What a beautiful relationship. right? When the fight began, Arjuna was so matchless. Nobody can match him. Single-handedly, he fought all those warriors. Bhishma, Drona, Kripa, Ashwathama, right? Karna, Shakuni, Duryodhan, all of them they fought against Arjuna. Because they were not able to face Arjuna, there was a fight amongst themselves. There was an argument and the Duryodhan had to pacify. But eventually they were no match to Arjuna. Arjuna took this Sammohini Astra, and as he released that Sammohini Astra, everyone on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, specifically these great personalities, Kripacharya, Dronacharya, Ashwathama, Karna, Duryodhan, Jayadratha, all of them they went to great slumber, sleep. सबके सब बेहोश हो गए except Bhishma Dev. Another beautiful quality of Arjuna. What is it? The quality of, even amidst the big mission, he did not neglect or forgot what Uttara wanted. What she wanted the cloth of the great warriors. Arjuna had got a victory. He has defeated everybody. It is but natural in your celebration you forget the most insignificant. That is the Prakriti's niyam. But the Sanskriti's niyam is extremely refined. When Sita Maya was celebrating along with Lord Ramachandra the coronation of Lord Ram, this is after killing all the evil forces, they were sprinkling this color. And one of the color was gulal. No? That gulal, when it's sprinkled in the air to celebrate the victory of Lord Ramachandra, coronation of Lord Ramachandra, suddenly there were tears in the corner of the eyes of Sita Devi. Because those color, that color, pink and red color, brought the memory of the blood of Jatayu. उसके आंखों से आश्रुओं की धारा बहने लगी, टिपकने लगा. So Arjuna similarly, he could have celebrated, but he said, Uttara, go, get down from the chariot and collect the upper cloth from every Maharathi except Bhishma Dev. He is not unconscious. Go and collect. Uttara goes down. Imagine he's collecting those upper cloths, beautifully made upper cloth, collecting all of them, bringing back to Arjuna. Why Arjuna collected? Because he had promised, Uttara, I will give it to you. The Kurus did not disrobe the Pandavas, but the Pandava brother Arjuna had the power and capacity to make them completely naked. But he just picked up the Uttara, the Uttariya. Now Uttariya represents your dignity. Uttariya represents your status. Uttariya represents your elitist mentality. Arjuna just picked it up, collected them. He was successful in disrobing the dignity of the Kurus. Even though Kurus tried to disrobe the confidence of the Pandavas through trying to disrobe. It's not only Draupadi. They tried with the Pandavas also. In Hastinapur, collected, Arjuna gave an instruction to that young boy, Uttar, you are not saying anything to your father about me till everything becomes very clear. You have to take all the credit of victory. Imagine what Uttara must have gone through, because he was a changed man. He couldn't dare taking credit of his victory because it was not his victory. He saw it very clearly. It was the victory of Brahmanila, who is none other than Arjuna. But now Arjuna is telling, you cannot reveal my identity. It will take some time. And when this news reached Virat, he was shocked. He was fascinated. He wanted to have a celebration. and the conflict between the father and the son. Father has to celebrate and the son is kind of saying no, 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 no. But he cannot say no because Arjuna is telling you cannot say anything. Imagine all that nuances of different emotions, Virata becoming angry and throwing, that the pawn on the head of Yudhishthira Maharaj, and Draupadi collecting. He said even one drop of that blood would go on the ground. You know what will happen? Because Arjuna had taken a vow. Anybody makes my brother's blood spill on the ground, I'll finish them off. Virat was about to be killed. So therefore Yudhishthira moves his head on the other side. And Arjuna wanted Yudhishthira Maharaj to celebrate his victory, but he cannot do now because he's bleeding. So Arjuna is confused, what is happening? Right? And Virat is angry that how the hell you are glorifying a Brahmanila. Uttar Kumar is confused about what to do now. My father has done such a blunder. I can't rebel. Imagine how in drama these emotions are portrayed. You cannot do it in the movie. You can do it in a drama, natak. Right? So many layers of nuances which are expressed in a small place within 30 seconds to 1 minute. Now Arjuna goes back, getting confused at his place. And then eventually he gets to know these are not ordinary people, these are the Pandavas. How does he come to know? Because on a right day, the Pandavas occupy the seat of Virat, dressed in their royalty. When they sit there, imagine making a beautiful movie out of this. The entire story of defeating Kaurus in Virata's battle, Gograhana battle. And they're sitting on that royal throne. Virat, when he comes and he recognizes, what the hell are you doing? But then it was revealed these are none other than the great Pandavas. And then he begged forgiveness from them. Sudakshina begs forgiveness, but the Pandavas much more gracious. They said this is part of life when you are incognito and you are insignificant. They brush it off. They do not take it seriously. Whatever offenses Draupadi had to go through, Kanka had to go through, Arjuna had to go through. But he gave them the shelter. So they were very happy and reciprocal. The king couldn't contain himself. He said, my dear Arjun, I have one great wish. For all what you have done, I want to offer my daughter in marriage with you. You know what Arjun is? Arjun said, no, it is not possible. It cannot work like that because I was a teacher, she was a student. And whenever I taught, there was no other agenda other than teaching her properly. This will not happen. Virat was despondent. Arjuna said, but there is another option, that my son Abhimanyu can marry your daughter. And who is son? Son is none other than the very Atma of the father. So Virata's daughter Uttara and Arjuna got married. And that marriage became the future legacy of Bharata Kula, Bharata Khanda. Right, from that union of Abhimanyu and Uttara, the marriage was arranged. She got married to Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu came from Dwarka with the blessings of Sri Krishna, who raised him when the Pandavas were in the exile in the forest. Very dear to Sri Krishna. What Krishna did not receive from his uncle Kamsa Mama, this Abhimanyu received everything from Krishna Mama. Krishna did everything to Abhimanyu. You could imagine. After doing all that, they got married. And within no time, the battle of Kurukshetra ensued. And that Abhimanyu, who had just married, his wife was pregnant. Uttara was pregnant. On the battle of Kurukshetra, Abhimanyu was slaughtered by the 6 great warriors. Imagine what Arjuna must have gone through. We'll discuss that. But from the adversity of losing his son Abhimanyu, But even he died, he did not die without giving the legacy to the Pandavas. And from that womb of Uttara came the great Parikshit Maharaj. Right? And therefore Parikshit Maharaj's birth is so much connected to Virata's battle. That is the time after winning the Gograhan pastime, Virata wanted to offer his daughter to Arjuna. Arjuna chose Abhimanyu. They got married there. Abhimanyu conceived her and he came to the battlefield, and her womb was not completely matured, and Ashwathama released that weapon. Of course, Krishna protected and Parikshit Maharaj was born. And if you read in the first canto of the Bhagavatam, all the characteristics of Parikshit Maharaj. He was not born, he just born. And the Brahmanas predicted his future, and everything what they said came out true. And who is Parikshit? Parikshit is none other than the grandson of the great Arjuna. There was a great sacrifice involved in the birth of Parikshit Maharaj. And therefore the Lord, the Supreme Lord, arranged in such a way. Arjuna heard Bhagavad Gita and his grandson heard the Bhagavatam. Therefore, the contribution of the Pandavas in Gita and Bhagavatam is unparalleled. Hearing about them, especially Arjuna, following in their footsteps, like doing their Purushartha, and then dealing with their inadequacies by completely surrendering to the will of the Vishnu, the will of Lord Sri Krishna, the Pandavas excelled in so many ways. Therefore, in the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, what do you hear from Sanjay? He said, wherever there is Krishna and wherever there is Arjuna, there is victory, prosperity and morality. That is incognito. Incognito is a preparation for greater contribution for themselves and to the cause of Sri Krishna. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? Yes, you can ask, or in the chat, however. Can't hear the question. Yeah. Arjuna surely respected both of his gurus, Sri Dronacharya and Sri Dharma, but was there any difference in the way he respected them? In other words, what was unique or special about his respect towards each of them individually? Yes, Arjuna respected Dhaumya like anything because he was such a sober. He transformed the life of the Pandavas from their, made them much greater in their character. And he was extremely attached to Dronacharya. That is there. With Dhaumya, the emotions were steady. With Dronacharya, the emotions were very flexible. Never criticized him. But any harm came to Dronacharya when Dronacharya was killed by Drishtadyumna. Arjuna went mad. He criticized Yudhishthira Maharaj for killing Dronacharya for a cause of small kingdom. That was his attachment. Krishna pacified Arjuna. Because of that conflict between Arjuna and Bhima, Bhima took the side of Drishtadyumna and Arjuna took the side of Satyaki, who was basically had an argument with Drishtadyumna. Right? So one great commentator writes, Dronacharya, while living, he caused greater conflict among the Pandavas and the Panchalas, especially the Drupadas and the Pandavas, using the Pandavas. Even after death, Dronacharya caused conflict among the Pandavas. To such an extent, Arjuna became emotional on the battleground after the death of Dronacharya. He says, what you have done is not right. You did the same thing as Lord Ramachandra did, hiding, killing Vali. Imagine that same Krishna is standing, who is Ram, and Arjuna's emotion were very heightened up. So he blurted like this, "Are you have done this just like Vali was killed from behind." Krishna did not take it seriously because he knew Arjuna's attachment to Drona, and now he's eliminated. Dronacharya is not there. He's speaking something, it doesn't matter. The Lord moves on. So that is the distinction between the two. Arjuna is a winner. How do you define a winner? As winning is not guaranteed. Winning is not about an event. Winning is a journey. What is Arjuna's win? Arjuna, because Krishna makes it very clear in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna does not promise victory just because you are his devotee. Krishna promises capacity to handle whether it is victory or defeat. That is winning. Winning a match is not winning, but how do you handle when you lose the match? So the Pandavas were expert in handling the dualities. That is victory. And the other victory is, kind of a detail. Doesn't, it's not, that is not so important. Yeah. Why only Arjuna was chosen by Krishna to reveal the Gita? Huh? Again, this is Arjuna was chosen by Krishna not only because Krishna had great affection for Arjuna, because Arjuna was capable of delivering what was promised by Krishna to the entire living entities. Yada yada hi dharmasya glani. Yes, the Lord Sri Krishna, Lord Ramachandra is equal to everybody. They are kind and affectionate to all the soldiers who assisted Lord Ram. But Hanumanji was special because he had a greater capacity to deliver. That is part of life. Right? The delivery happened to everybody. All the kapis were, liberated by the Supreme Lord. But still, Hanumanji stands out. Now, one cannot say, how can God be partial? This is not partiality, this is reciprocation. Prakriti does not allow socialism to flourish. There is no socialism Prakriti. What is there in Prakriti? Prakriti has one quality. You are fit, you survive. You are fit, you thrive. You are steady, you stay longer thriving. If you are not strong, if you are not stable, then Prakriti wipes them out. Survival of the fittest, it is not simply a Darwin theory. It is there in the Bhagavatam. Jivo Jivasya Jivanam, second canto. Right? So Arjuna was capable and at the same time deeply connected to Krishna in devotion. So that combination, very important. And secondly, the Bhima had no problem about fighting. He was ready to fight anytime. He said he doesn't need Bhagavad Gita. Nakul Sahadev had no issue. Yudhishthira Maharaj had an issue after the war was over. Therefore, he heard knowledge from Bhishma Dev. Arjuna had an issue before the battle. He got confused. So, therefore, the question becomes very redundant. Why Arjuna? Because he was confused. If some other small ordinary soldier is confused, Krishna would not speak Bhagavad Gita. Arey usko nikalo, durso ko lekar aao. Very easily replaceable. But at that day, Arjuna in one sense was not replaceable. Why was he not replaceable? Because he had prepared himself to this battle to assist Sri Krishna. Therefore, and Arjuna asked, I want to hear Krishna because I am confused. So that's how Krishna chose Arjuna to speak. Arjuna's zodiac sign, I have no clue, but it is said that his nakshatra is Uttara Falguna. That is Arjuna's nakshatra is given. Thank you. We will stop here and meet again next week for the fourth session.